The last functional group we have to talk about is quite complex. This is called the phosphate group, and it has a phosphorus in the middle surrounded by 4 oxygens. So it looks something like this. One of the oxygens in red you can see is double bonded to the phosphorus in the middle, and so you would take this whole chemical group and attach it to your carbon skeleton like so. Now, this particular functional group has a number of different responsibilities. One of them is kind of acting as an on-off switch for molecules, much like your light switch, right? You flip it up, turn on the light, flip it down to turn the light off. If you add a phosphate group to a molecule, that tends to activate the molecule. If you remove a phosphate group, it inactivates the molecule and forces it to cease doing its job, whatever it might be. So that's one way that phosphate groups are used on molecules. Another way in which the phosphate group is used is in a very important molecule for cells. And this molecule is called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. I bet you've heard of it before. And so ATP, we have the chemical structure for ATP abbreviated down here. So the carbon skeleton is here. We'll take a closer look at it in some of the later chapters, but here's the adenosine part. So the carbon skeleton is here, and it's called adenosine triphosphate because it's got this tail that's made out of 3 phosphate groups attached all in a row. Now, this molecule is particularly important because of its chemical structure. ATP has the ability to store a lot of energy. When the ATP reacts with water, it undergoes a reaction that's called hydrolysis. And this hydrolysis cleaves that last phosphate off of the tail. So you can see this happens here. The last phosphate is taken off. It leaves as what is called an inorganic phosphate. And what's left over is adenosine diphosphate, or adenosine with only 2 phosphates in the tail. And in this process, a whole bunch of energy is going to be released. ATP is the primary energy transfer molecule in living cells. I like to think of it as the dollar bill for the cell. If the cell wants to accomplish something, it needs to use ATP. ATP is broken, energy is released, and that energy is used to pay for that particular type of cellular work.